guys, it's Nicole. I'm back with a Spooky Time podcast. I am just gonna start this episode by saying, I still work a full-time job. I'm not doing this full-time. So far I haven't gotten paid anything, promise, because I've had 3 listeners, rip. So I'm doing this from my bathroom at 2 o'clock in the morning with my phone. I have my borrowed laptop and my notebook that I hand wrote half of these notes out on. I'm little, I am me. This is just a hobby for me because I love true crime podcasts, and there's a lot of them, but I don't know, you have to have a certain voice, and a lot of people tell me that I have that kind of voice, so we're gonna see if I can do something, because I need a hobby. All I do is work and sleep. I have 3 cats, so if anybody hears any meowings or any, bells jingling, that's my cat. She's a baby and she runs around this house like she owns it, because she does. Alright. I am gonna jump into the story after I little touch base on about where I'm from, because this was supposed to be a hometown story, but there are no serial killers from where I live, which is a good thing. We don't need any of those. I'm good. So I had to branch out further, and the one that I found is about an hour and a half away from where I live, in a town that was formerly called Blue Mountain, but it's now known as Anniston, Alabama. You really wouldn't know Anniston or Coleman, really, unless you're from there or know someone from there. But Coleman is a small town in north central Alabama. I was born in 1999, so I'm hanging on to my 90s baby. When I was born, the population was 30% smaller than it is. That was from the 2021 census, so from 2 years ago. And honestly, it's been really booming since. So it's probably gone up since then. With its close proximity to Birmingham and Huntsville, because they're about an hour away each way. With a lower cost of living, it quickly saw a boom in plants and industries, which is true. We have a lot of plants. It's getting pretty crazy. Channing Tatum is actually from Coleman. He is probably the most well-known celebrity. Alabama itself has only seen 3 serial killers from here. At least, confirmed that we know about. So, today's case is actually going to be Nannie Doss, who was born as Nancy Hazel. She has a lot of different nicknames. She has, let me find them. She has the Giggling Grandma, Black Widow, a Lonely Hearts Killer. She's also got Oklahoma's Jolly Widow. There's a lot for this woman. And she went on a nearly 20-year killing spree, taking the lives of 8 to 11 people who were in her family, whether it was by marriage or her husband's, to some capacity, they were even related to her. And that makes the story even more chilling. So I'm going to start from the top. Nannie Doss, birth name, Nancy Hazel, which is what I'm going to refer to her as, Nancy, until she starts confirmed killing people, because I feel that's more when she starts going by Nannie. Yeah, and you know what I'm saying. All right. So, she was the only female serial killer from Alabama. She was born on November 4th, 1905. So, early 1900s. She was born in Blue Mountain, Alabama. Now most commonly known as Anniston. It's an hour and 33 minutes from where I live now, which is close, a little too close. She was one of 5 children. She had 1 brother and 3 other sisters, not including her. Her father was strict, controlling, with a nasty streak. He was mentally and verbally abusive. He caused Nancy and her mom to hate him, which, she had an unhappy childhood. She did not do well as a student. She never learned to read well and was mostly uneducated because at an early age, her father pulled her to work on the family farm, which it's later said that she likes to read and write in the columns, so I would guess that she eventually did go back to school at some point and learn, but early on she did not. When she was around 7, the family altogether took a train to visit relatives in South Alabama. While they were on the train, they suddenly stopped and Nancy hit her head on a metal bar that was on the back of the seat in front of her. And it was said to cause her to suffer from headaches, depression, and blackouts. She blamed her mental instability on that incident. During her childhood, her favorite hobby was reading her mom's magazines. And I'm going to guess this was after she learned how to read, because, in that beginning it said she never learned. From then on, her favorite hobby was dreaming of her own romantic future. Her favorite articles, of course, was the Lonely Hearts column, which comes up to be a pattern. Her and her sister's teen years were restricted and robbed of freedom. Their father forbade them to wear makeup, quote unquote, attractive clothing, to go to dances, or to go to any other social events. He was trying to, quote, prevent them from being molested, unquote. But that had already happened on several different occasions to all 4 of the sisters. And I forgot to put a content warning before that, so the next time I will try at the very least. Sorry, guys. So we're going to fast forward just a couple years to her first marriage. At age 16, Nancy was married to Charlie Braggs. They met by working together at the linen thread factory. Her father gave his approval for them to be married after only 4 months of them dating at 16. So that would have been in 1921, which was a lot different back then compared to how it is nowadays, He was the only son of his mother, who was unwed, and his mom insisted on living with Charlie and Nancy after they were married because of this. Nancy later wrote about how she married as her dad wished at 16 years old in 1921, after only knowed for 4 or 5 months. That is an actual quote. Because he had no other family and an unwed mom who completely overtook her life after they had gotten married. His mom would see him as unable to do any wrong, but she would still, quote unquote, take spells. Not sure what that means. I didn't look into it, but I should have. She was not allowed to have her own mother over to their house due to his mom's controlling. Alright, so let me go back. Alright, here we go with that continued. Charlie's mom took most of his time and attention, and she often prevented Nancy from doing things she wanted to do. The marriage produced 4 daughters over a 4-year time period of 1923 to 1927, under a lot of stress due to, 4 daughters in 4 years, just having been married and having his mother in the picture. It's pretty rough. Under a lot of stress, Nancy started to take her casual smoking and drinking habit into a full-blown heavy addiction. The marriage was not a happy one. From suspected and later confirmed infidelity on both sides, Charlie often disappeared for days at a time, leaving Nancy at home with his mother and their 4 children. In early 1927, they lost the 2 middle daughters. It was suspected to be from food poisoning, but Charlie was always highly suspicious of Nancy, and he went on to repeat several times that he was deathly afraid of her, and that's why he would leave. He fled from her and took their oldest daughter, Melvina, with him, leaving the newborn, Florine, and his mother home with Nancy. His mother soon died around this time, and I did not find a lot of information about her death, so I assume it was just from old age and bad health, because that was, the reasoning behind her moving in with them. Oh no, I'm sorry. That is not the reasoning. She was unwed. But, okay, she was unwed. So, maybe she fell into bad health in between then and there. So, this caused Nancy to take a job in a local cotton mill to support the newborn, Florine, and herself. Charlie returned in the summer of 1928, about a year and a half later, and with him and Melvina, their oldest daughter, was a divorcee with her own child. Nancy and Charlie soon divorced, and Nancy returned to her mother's home with her 2 daughters, Melvina and Florine. Charlie always maintained that he left Nancy because he was scared of her. Alright, so let's touch on her second marriage. While living and working in Anniston, Alabama, Nancy soothed her loneliness by reading true romance and other such reading materials, including her beloved Lonely Hearts column. She even wrote to men in an ad on there. A particular ad wrote in there was from Robert, also known as Frank Harrelson, a 23-year-old factory worker from Jacksonville, Mississippi. He sent her romantic poetry, and she sent him a cake. Okay, I guess that's how that works. They met and married in 1929 when she was 24, 2 years after she had divorced Charlie. They lived together in Jacksonville with Nancy's 2 surviving daughters, and after a few months, she discovered that he was an alcoholic and he had a criminal record for assault. Despite this information that she learned, their marriage still lasted for 16 years. So this part gets a little out of order, like if I were going to go in order, but it follows the timeline. So I promise this flows on the timeline. All right. So Melvina, her oldest daughter, had a baby boy in 1943. Nancy came to help, but unfortunately, after a painful labor and delivery, he soon died. Melvina, exhausted from delivery and groggy from the medication that she was given, which I believe was ether, from what I read, she said that she had thought she'd seen her mother stick a hat pin into the baby's head. And I'm just going to assume that it's like a sewing pin for like thicker materials, because it's not like, it's PIN, not like writing pen, you know. She later told her partner, Mosey, because I could not find if it was her boyfriend or husband, so I'm just going to say partner, and sister Florine. They told her how Nancy had said the baby was dead, but the doctors could not come up with an explanation for the death. After this, Melvina and Mosey drifted apart, and Melvina started to date a soldier. Nancy did not approve of him, and while Melvina was visiting her father after a rather nasty fight with her mother, her living son died mysteriously in Nancy's care on July 7th, 1945. The cause of death was diagnosed as asphyxia from unknown causes. 2 months later, she collected the $500 life insurance policy she had taken out on her grandson. And I did not do the math, but I know that, what is that, in the 1945? So $500 would have been a lot more money back then than it is today. But how do you take out a policy on your grandchild? Okay. All right. So we're in 1945. Japan surrendered to the Allied powers at the end of World War II. Frank, Nancy's second husband, was one of the people who celebrated rather robustly. All right, so this is going to be like a trigger warning, because I promised I was going to try to hit you with it. This is a trigger warning, the R word, so you guys might want to skip a little bit if you're, sensitive. After an evening of heavy drinking, he raped Nancy. After the following day, she was tending to her rose garden. She discovered his jar of corn whiskey buried in the ground. The rape had been the last straw, and she topped off his drink with rat poison. Frank died a rather painful death that same evening. And from this point out, we're going to be referring to her as Nannie, because this was the first confirmed killing. All right. Nannie met her third husband, of course, while traveling in Lexington, North Carolina. He was Arlie Lanning, and she had married him within 3 days of meeting him through another Lonely Hearts column in the paper. He was in many ways like her previous husbands, an alcoholic and a womanizer. But in this marriage, it was Nannie who would disappear for months on end. When she was at home, though, she played the role of a loving and doting housewife. When her husband died of what was said to be heart failure, the whole town came to the funeral in support of her. Afterwards, the house they lived in burned to the ground. It had been left to Arlie's sister, and had it survived the fire, it would have gone to her. As it happened, though, the insurance money went to Nannie, and she quickly took it to the bank and deposited it. Soon she left North Carolina, but only after Arlie's mother died in her sleep. She ended up at her sister Dovie's home. Dovie was bedridden, and soon after Nannie's arrival, she too died. Nannie had joined the Diamond Circle Club looking for yet another husband. So I'm going to guess this is like a singles club. She met Richard L. Morton of Emporia, Kansas. While he was not an alcoholic, he was a womanizer. Before she could poison him, she ended up poisoning her mother, Louisa, in January of 1953 when she came to live with Nannie and Richard. Morton himself met his death 3 months later. And here we are at her final marriage. Nannie met and married Samuel Doss of Tulsa, Oklahoma in June of 1953, about 3 months after she had killed her last husband and about 6 months after she had killed her own mother. He was a clean-cut, church-going man. He did not approve of her romance novels and the stories that she had long adored. In September of 1953, Samuel was admitted to the hospital with flu-like symptoms. The hospital diagnosed him with a severe digestive tract infection. He was treated and released on October the 5th, 1953. Nannie killed him later that same evening while in a rush to collect her 2 life insurance policies that she had taken out on him. This sudden death, however, alerted his doctor, who ordered an autopsy to be done on his body. The autopsy revealed a huge amount of arsenic in his system. Nannie was promptly arrested for his murder. Nannie confessed to killing 4 of her 5 husbands, her mother, her sister, her second grandson, and her mother-in-law, Arlie Lanning's mother. The state of Oklahoma centered its case only on Samuel Doss because that is where the evidence laid. So the prosecution found her mentally fit to stand trial. Nannie pled guilty on May 17th, 1955, and she was sentenced to life in prison. Due to her being a woman, they did not pursue the death penalty. She was never charged with any of the other deaths and eventually died from leukemia in the state hospital wing of Oklahoma State Penitentiary in 1965, 10 years after her sentence. And I'm going to once again, I guess she was trying to plead mentally unfit due to the head injury that she had received and her depression and blackouts. But even in the 40s, I don't think that was really going to fly. She today is known by several different names. But I mostly think that this case boils down to a woman who had a nasty side that loved the attention from the new men. And then she found that she loved the money more. And she kept with the same type of men. knowing that not much would be done in the case of their deaths. If it wasn't for the doctor investigating the death of Samuel, who knows how many more people she could have killed and gotten away with. Because she did, for many years, get away with murdering several people that were her family members, including one of her grandsons. So, yeah, this case is wild, and I think I've only heard it maybe 1 or 2 times. It's really not well known. And like, I sent this to my best friend, and I was like, this is what my episode's going to be released on. And she was like, I didn't know that was a thing. But after she read up on it, she was like, that is pretty wild. Because she not once murdered anybody outside of her family. Like, there was mother-in-law, there was grandsons, there was sister, there was mother, there were husbands. Like, this was pretty wild. And how she could just play the loving, doting housewife, but then actually be, a serial killer. Like, I was 8 to 11 people in, and she was suspected to have possibly killed more. That's wild. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I put a poll on my Spotify for a true crime, a unsolved disappearance, or a paranormal episode next. And if you guys would share, like, subscribe, rate, do all the good things that I know you would. And I will see you guys soon. All right. Thanks. Bye.